The encounter. In the vast darkness of space, a lone research station floated silently above an uncharted planet. Alex, a human scientist, sat alone in his dimly lit lab, the hum of machinery his only company. For years he had worked here, analyzing cosmic anomalies and experimenting with advanced technologies. It wasn't a glamorous life, but it was peaceful. Until tonight. As Alex sipped his lukewarm coffee, a faint beeping broke the monotonous silence. The main console blinked with a red alert. He leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "Unusual signal detected," the automated voice announced. Alex tapped on the keyboard, trying to decode the signal. The screen filled with strange symbols, unlike anything he had ever seen. This wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was a distress call. "Is someone out there?" he whispered to himself, his heart racing. He enhanced the signal, tracing its origin. The coordinates pointed to a location just a few kilometers away on the planet's surface. Without hesitation, Alex grabbed his field gear and made his way to the shuttle bay. As the small craft descended, the planet's rugged terrain came into view. Jagged cliffs and glowing blue vegetation spread across the landscape, illuminated by the twin moons above. Alex landed near the source of the signal, a smoldering crash site. The wreckage was massive, its metallic surface reflecting a faint golden hue. Alex approached cautiously, his flashlight cutting through the smoke. His breath caught when he saw movement. Emerging from the debris was a figure, tall, slender, and undeniably alien. The being's skin shimmered like molten gold, her violet eyes glowing softly in the dim light. She stood with an air of grace, despite the damage to her ship and the strange wound on her arm. Alex froze, unsure whether to run or stay. "You are the one," the alien woman said, her voice melodic yet firm. Her gaze locked onto him, intense and unwavering. Alex blinked, trying to process her words. "Excuse me? Who? What are you?" She took a step closer, and Alex instinctively backed away. "I am Lyrith," she said, her voice echoing slightly. "I have traveled across galaxies, but now I have found you." "Me?" Alex's voice cracked. "Look, I think you've got the wrong guy. I'm just a scientist." Lyrith tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "You are the human chosen by the stars. My heart and loyalty are yours, from this moment forward." Alex stared at her, his mind racing. Was she delusional? Or was this some alien culture he didn't understand? Before he could respond, a sudden noise erupted from the wreckage. A mechanical hiss, followed by a deep hum. Lyrith's expression shifted to alarm. "We must leave. Now." "What? Why?" Alex asked, but she grabbed his arm with surprising strength, pulling him away from the crash site. Just as they reached cover, a section of the wreckage exploded, sending shards of metal flying. Alex ducked, shielding his head. "What the hell is going on?" "They are coming," Lyrith said, her tone urgent. "Those who wish to see me destroyed. You are in danger now because of me." Alex shook his head. "Danger? I don't even know who you are." Lyrith turned to face him, her violet eyes piercing. "You will know soon. But first, we must survive." As more explosions rocked the crash site, Alex realized he had no choice but to trust this strange alien woman. His quiet, predictable life had just been shattered, and he was now part of something far bigger than he could comprehend. Little did he know, this was only the beginning. First contact. The silence between Alex and Lyrith stretched as they moved away from the burning wreckage. The golden-skinned alien walked with a natural grace despite her injuries, her violet eyes scanning the terrain for threats. Alex, still clutching his gear, followed her hesitantly, his mind spinning with questions. They finally stopped in a clearing surrounded by tall, glowing plants that seemed to hum faintly in the night air. Lyrith turned to Alex, her expression softening slightly. "We are safe for now," she said, her voice steady but tinged with exhaustion. Alex exhaled sharply. "Safe? From what? Who's after you? And why are you talking like I'm some kind of chosen one? Lerith hesitated, her gaze fixed on the glowing plants. There is much you will not understand, human, but I will try to explain. I am Lerith, a descendant of the Solari, a race bound by ancient laws and traditions. My kind is rare, and my existence is valuable. Valuable, Alex repeated, raising an eyebrow. To who? To those who see us as weapons, she replied, her voice hardening. I was once an assassin, trained to eliminate targets across galaxies. But I broke away from that life. I sought freedom, and in doing so, I became hunted. Alex stared at her, disbelief etched on his face. Wait, let me get this straight. You're an alien assassin, and now you're being chased because you decided to quit. Lerith's lips curved into a faint smile, though her eyes remained serious. Simplistic, but accurate. And where do I fit into all this? Why did you say I'm your destined one? She stepped closer, her glowing violet eyes searching his face. The Solari are bound by an ancient prophecy. When one of us chooses to sever our ties to tradition, the stars guide us to our protector, a being who will ensure our survival. For me, that protector is you. Alex took a step back, shaking his head. This has to be a mistake. I'm not a soldier or some hero. I'm just a scientist. I study cosmic phenomena, not whatever this is. Lerith tilted her head, her golden skin shimmering faintly in the moonlight. And yet here you are. Do you think it is coincidence that my ship crashed near your station? The stars do not make mistakes. Alex rubbed his temples, trying to process everything. Okay, let's say for a second I believe you. What happens now? Do we just wait for your hunters to find us? Lerith's expression turned grim. They will not stop until I am captured or killed. And now, because of your proximity to me, you are a target as well. Great, Alex muttered, his voice dripping with sarcasm. That's exactly what I needed in my life. Before Lerith could respond, a low rumbling noise echoed through the clearing. Her posture stiffened, and she pulled a sleek, metallic device from her belt. It expanded into a weapon, glowing faintly with the same violet hue as her eyes. They are here, she said, her voice sharp. Who? Alex whispered, fear creeping into his tone. The Syndicate, Lerith replied. An organization that profits from chaos and destruction. They want me for my abilities, and they will destroy anything in their path to get me. Alex glanced around, his heart pounding. The glowing plants cast eerie shadows, and the rumbling grew louder. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a sleek black craft descended from the sky, its engines humming ominously. Stay behind me, Lerith ordered, stepping in front of Alex. The craft landed, and 3 figures emerged. Tall, armored beings with helmets that obscured their faces. They carried weapons that glowed with an otherworldly energy. One of them spoke, their voice amplified and cold. Lerith of the Solari, surrender, and we will spare the human. Lerith didn't flinch. Instead, she raised her weapon, its glow intensifying. You know I cannot do that. The lead figure tilted their head. Then you leave us no choice. Before Alex could react, the air erupted with energy blasts. Lerith moved like lightning, dodging the attacks and returning fire with precision. Alex ducked behind a rock, his heart racing as he watched the battle unfold. Lerith was a blur of gold and violet, her movements fluid and almost artistic. She disarmed one attacker with a swift kick, then turned to deflect another blast with her weapon. The Syndicate soldiers were relentless, but so was she. Amid the chaos, Alex realized something. Despite her elegance and power, Lerith wasn't invincible. She stumbled slightly, her earlier injury slowing her down. One of the soldiers took advantage, aiming their weapon at her exposed side. Lerith, look out! Alex shouted, surprising even himself. She turned just in time to block the attack, but the force sent her sprawling to the ground. The soldiers closed in, their weapons aimed at her. "No," Alex yelled, grabbing a nearby piece of debris. Without thinking, he hurled it at the nearest soldier. It wasn't much, but it distracted them long enough for Lyrith to regain her footing. With a final burst of energy, Lyrith unleashed a powerful wave of violet light, knocking the soldiers off their feet. The remaining ones retreated, dragging their injured comrades back to the craft. Within moments, they were gone, leaving only silence in their wake. Lyrith turned to Alex, breathing heavily. "You risked yourself for me." Alex shrugged, his hands still shaking. "I didn't really have a choice, did I?" For the first time, Lyrith smiled. A real, genuine smile. Perhaps the stars were right about you after all. Alex sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Yeah, well, I'm starting to wish they weren't." As the adrenaline began to fade, Alex realized one thing. His life would never be the same again. Danger approaches. The silence after the syndicate attack was unnerving. Alex and Lyrith sat in the temporary safety of a cavern hidden beneath an overhang of glowing rocks. The air was cool, but the tension between them was palpable. Alex watched as Lyrith meticulously examined her weapon, her golden fingers moving with practiced precision. Despite everything, she seemed calm, too calm for someone who had just fought off intergalactic assassins. Alex broke the silence, his voice low but strained. "So, what happens now? Do we just keep running until they eventually catch up?" Lyrith glanced at him, her violet eyes flickering in the dim light. "Running will not save us. The syndicate is relentless. They track by energy signatures, which means they will find us again soon." Alex sighed, leaning back against the cavern wall. "Fantastic. And here I thought I'd die of boredom on that station." Lyrith tilted her head, a faint trace of amusement crossing her face. "You may die of many things now, but boredom is not one of them." "Thanks for the pep talk," Alex muttered, rolling his eyes. He paused, his curiosity getting the better of him. "How did they find you in the first place? Was it just bad luck, or is there something you're not telling me?" Lyrith hesitated, her gaze dropping to the weapon in her hands. "It was not luck," she admitted. "The syndicate planted a tracker on my ship before I escaped their stronghold. I disabled it, but it seems they anticipated my actions. There is another device, one I cannot locate." Alex frowned, sitting up straighter. "A tracker? Could it still be active?" "It is likely," Lyrith said, "which means we must act quickly. The longer we stay in one place, the more vulnerable we become." Before Alex could respond, a soft humming noise filled the cavern. Lyrith's head snapped up, her expression hardening. "They are here." Alex's blood ran cold. "Already? How did they?" "Quiet," Lyrith commanded, raising a hand. She pressed a button on her wristband, and the glow from the rocks dimmed, plunging them into near darkness. The humming grew louder, followed by a series of mechanical clicks. Alex held his breath, straining to hear. Shadows flickered at the mouth of the cavern, and then he saw them. Small, spider-like drones with glowing red eyes. They moved in unison, scanning the area with laser-like precision. Lyrith pulled him back into the shadows, her voice barely a whisper. "Do not move. They can detect heat and motion." Alex froze, his heart pounding. The drones crept closer, their metallic legs clicking against the rocky floor. One of them paused, turning its glowing eye toward their direction. Alex felt a bead of sweat trickle down his forehead. The drone emitted a sharp beep and advanced, its scanners locking onto the faint heat signature of Alex's body. Lyrith acted swiftly, stepping forward and then slicing through the drone with her weapon. The metallic creature sparked and collapsed, but the noise had alerted the others. "Run," Lyrith hissed, grabbing Alex's arm and pulling him toward the back of the cavern. The drones swarmed, their red eyes lighting up the darkness like a wave of fireflies. Alex stumbled after Lyrith, his legs barely keeping up. "Where are we even going?" "There is an exit," she said, her voice tight. "We must reach it before they call reinforcements." They navigated the twisting tunnels, the sound of the drones growing louder behind them. Alex's lungs burned, and his mind raced. This was not how he imagined his life would go, fleeing from killer robots with an alien assassin as his only ally. They finally emerged into an open field, the night sky stretching endlessly above them. But the reprieve was short-lived. A sleek black craft hovered in the distance, its lights scanning the ground below. "Keep moving," Lyrith commanded, pushing Alex forward. "Where exactly are we moving to?" he shouted, panic rising in his voice. Lyrith didn't answer. Instead, she pulled a small device from her belt and threw it into the air. It expanded into a shimmering shield, cloaking them in a bubble of refracted light. The drones reached the field moments later, their sensors scanning frantically. The cloaking shield distorted their heat signatures, confusing the machines. "Stay quiet," Lyrith whispered, crouching low beside Alex. They watched as the drones circled the area, their frustration evident in their erratic movements. After what felt like an eternity, they retreated, their red eyes fading into the distance. Alex let out a shaky breath. That was too close. Lyrith deactivated the shield, her expression grim. "They are escalating." The drones were merely scouts. The Syndicate will send more advanced hunters next. Alex stared at her, his frustration boiling over. "This is insane. I can't keep running like this. There has to be a way to stop them." "There is," Lyrith said, her voice cold and firm. "We must eliminate the source. The Syndicate's tracking system operates from a central hub. If we destroy it, they will lose their ability to find me." Alex groaned. "Great. And where is this hub?" "In orbit," Lyrith replied. "Aboard their command ship." "Of course it is," Alex muttered, rubbing his temples. "Because why wouldn't it be in the most dangerous place imaginable?" Lyrith placed a hand on his shoulder, her gaze steady. "You have already proven yourself resourceful, Alex. With your knowledge and my skills, we can succeed." He looked at her, unsure whether to be inspired or terrified. "Fine," he said reluctantly. "But if we're doing this, you'd better have a plan." Lyrith's lips curved into a faint smile. "I always have a plan." As the first rays of dawn crept over the horizon, Alex realized there was no turning back. Together, they would face the Syndicate head-on, risking everything for a chance at freedom. Trust issues. The Syndicate's retreat had given Alex and Lyrith a brief respite, but the tension between them was thick as they trekked through the alien wilderness. The glowing vegetation swayed gently in the cool wind, their bioluminescence casting eerie shadows on the rocky terrain. Alex trudged behind Lyrith, his mind a whirlwind of doubt and frustration. "All right," Alex began, his voice sharp. "I think it's time you start explaining yourself. All of it. Who are you really? And why should I trust anything you say?" Lyrith stopped abruptly, turning to face him. Her violet eyes glinted in the dim light, unreadable yet intense. "I have already told you. I am Lyrith of the Solari, a fugitive woe." "No," Alex interrupted, his frustration boiling over. "I mean the truth. Why do you need me? Why me, of all people? And what aren't you telling me about the Syndicate?" Lyrith studied him for a moment, her expression hardening. "You doubt me. Can you blame me?" Alex shot back. "My life was normal. Boring, sure, but safe. Then you crash-land into it with your hunters and prophecies, and whatever else. And now I'm running for my life. What am I even supposed to believe?" For the first time, Lyrith looked uncertain. She averted her gaze, her golden skin shimmering faintly in the moonlight. "You are right," she said quietly. "You have no reason to trust me. But I have no reason to deceive you, either. I chose you because I had no choice." "That's not an answer," Alex said, crossing his arms. Lyrith sighed, an uncharacteristic hint of vulnerability creeping into her voice. "The Solari are bound by ancient laws, traditions that dictate every aspect of our existence. When I defied those laws, I became an outcast, a threat. The syndicate saw an opportunity in my rebellion. They sought to weaponize me, to use my skills and my very essence for their gain. Your essence? Alex repeated, frowning. My kind possesses abilities that make us valuable, Lareth explained. Our physiology can amplify energy fields, disrupt technology, even enhance biological functions. The syndicate wishes to extract and replicate these traits, turning me, and others like me, into tools of destruction. Alex's stomach churned at the thought. That's horrifying. But what does any of that have to do with me? Lareth hesitated, her violet eyes meeting his. When I broke away, I followed the guidance of the Solari prophecy. It led me here, to you. The prophecy foretold of a human who would protect me, who would help me end the syndicate's pursuit and forge a new path. Alex laughed bitterly. A prophecy? You're risking your life. And mine, on some ancient alien fortune-telling. Call it what you will, Lareth said, her voice firm. But the stars do not lie, and neither do I. Alex shook his head, pacing a few steps away. You're asking me to trust you based on blind faith. That's not how I work. Then trust my actions, Lareth said, her tone sharper now. Have I not protected you? Have I not fought for your survival? If I wished to harm you, would I not have done so already? Alex stopped, her words sinking in. As much as he hated to admit it, she had a point. She had risked herself to shield him from the syndicate's attacks, and she had shown no signs of deception. But that didn't erase his doubts. Before he could respond, a distant rumble shook the ground. Lareth stiffened, her hand flying to the weapon at her side. We are not alone. Alex's pulse quickened. More syndicate? No, Lareth said, narrowing her eyes. Something else. The ground trembled again, louder this time. A shadow passed overhead, and Alex looked up to see a massive creature silhouetted against the stars. It was reptilian in shape, with glimmering scales and wings that stretched across the sky. What is that? Alex whispered, his voice barely audible. A native predator, Lareth said, her tone grim. They are drawn to heat and movement. If it senses us, it will attack. As if on cue, the creature let out an ear-splitting roar, its glowing eyes locking onto their position. Lareth cursed under her breath, grabbing Alex's arm. Run. They sprinted through the alien forest, the creature's massive footsteps shaking the ground behind them. Alex's lungs burned as he struggled to keep up, his legs feeling like lead. He glanced back and immediately regretted it. The predator was gaining on them, its jaws snapping with terrifying force. This is insane, Alex shouted, his voice ragged. You're telling me to trust you. But now we're about to be eaten by a giant space lizard. Keep running, Lareth snapped, her tone leaving no room for argument. They burst into a clearing, the ground sloping downward toward a shimmering pool of liquid that glowed faintly in the dark. Lareth skidded to a halt, her eyes scanning the area. The creature roared again, crashing through the trees behind them. Into the pool, Lareth commanded, pulling Alex toward it. What? Are you crazy? Alex protested. We don't even know what's in there. It will mask our heat signature, Lareth said. Trust me. Alex hesitated for a split second, then followed her lead. The liquid was cool and viscous, clinging to his skin as they submerged themselves. The glowing surface dimmed, blending into the surrounding environment. The predator burst into the clearing moments later, its glowing eyes scanning the area. It sniffed the air, letting out a frustrated growl. Unable to locate its prey, it let out a final roar before retreating into the forest. Alex surfaced, gasping for air. That was the worst thing I've ever done. Lareth smirked faintly, her golden skin glistening with the strange liquid. But you are alive. Alex glared at her, but couldn't argue. He dragged himself onto the shore, collapsing onto the ground. Fine. I'll admit it. You've kept me alive. But this doesn't mean I trust you completely. Lyrith sat beside him, her expression thoughtful. Trust is earned, Alex, and I will earn it. For the first time, Alex saw a glimmer of something deeper in her eyes. Determination, yes, but also vulnerability. He sighed, realizing that, for better or worse, their fates were now tied together. The bond. The alien wilderness was eerily quiet after the chaos of their narrow escape. The glowing forest cast long shadows as Alex and Lyrith sat near a small makeshift campfire, its light flickering against the shimmering trees. Alex, still dripping from their plunge into the mysterious liquid pool, stared into the flames, his mind churning. Lyrith sat across from him, her golden skin catching the firelight, giving her an almost otherworldly glow. She was sharpening her weapon, a sleek, metallic blade that seemed alive with a faint purple energy. For someone who had just fought off syndicate drones and a massive alien predator, she looked impossibly calm. Alex finally broke the silence. You know, this is the part where normal people would panic, or at the very least, explain what the hell is going on. Lyrith didn't look up. We are alive. That is all that matters. Alex snorted, shaking his head. You say that like it's a given. But let me remind you, I'm not some galactic warrior. I'm just a guy who fixes machines and studies anomalies. I'm not cut out for this. You underestimate yourself, Lyrith said, finally meeting his gaze. Her violet eyes were steady, unyielding. You have survived more in the past day than many would in a lifetime. That is not the mark of someone ordinary. Alex sighed, running a hand through his damp hair. Surviving doesn't mean I'm some chosen hero or whatever you think I am. It means you are capable, Lyrith countered. And capable is enough. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Alex wanted to argue, but he couldn't. Despite his fear, his exhaustion, and his doubts, he had survived. He had helped. Maybe not because of skill, but because he had no choice. Still, something about Lyrith's unwavering confidence in him felt different, like she saw something he couldn't. So, Alex said after a moment, shifting uncomfortably, you're really putting all your faith in me. Some random human. Lyrith's gaze softened, and for the first time she hesitated. You are not random, Alex. The stars guided me to you. The prophecy is clear. You are my protector, my partner. Partner. Alex repeated, raising an eyebrow. I'm not exactly partner material. I'm barely keeping myself alive out here. Perhaps, Lyrith said, a faint smile tugging at her lips. But you have a good heart. That matters more than skill. Alex blinked, caught off guard by the compliment. A good heart won't stop drones or predators. No, Lyrith agreed. But it will give you the strength to try. They sat in silence for a while after that, the fire crackling softly between them. Despite everything, Alex felt a strange sense of calm settle over him. For the first time, he realized that Lyrith wasn't just some invincible alien warrior. She was someone who had risked everything, her life, her freedom, for a chance at something better. And now, for reasons he couldn't fully grasp, she had placed her trust in him. All right, Alex said finally, his voice quiet but firm. Let's say I believe you. Let's say I really am this protector. What does that mean? What's my role in all of this? Lyrith studied him for a moment, her expression thoughtful. It means we are bound by loyalty. I will protect you, and you will protect me. Together, we will face whatever comes. Alex laughed bitterly. You make it sound so simple. It is not, Lyrith admitted. But simplicity is not the same as ease. The path ahead will be difficult, perhaps impossible, but we will face it together. Alex frowned, his doubts still lingering. And if I fail? What then? Then we fail together, Lyrith said without hesitation. But I do not believe you will fail. Alex stared at her, searching for any sign of doubt in her words. There was none. It was both comforting and terrifying. How could she have so much faith in him when he barely had any in himself? Before he could respond, Lyrith reached into a small pouch on her belt and pulled out a glowing crystal. She held it out to him, her expression serious. "Here, take this." Alex hesitated, eyeing the crystal warily. "What is it?" "A shard of Solari essence," Lyrith explained. "It will strengthen your mind and body, connect you to the energy of the stars. It is a gift and a responsibility." Alex took the crystal, its surface warm and pulsing faintly in his hand. He felt a strange sensation, like a current running through his veins. "This is a lot to take in." Lyrith nodded. "It is, but it is also necessary. The Syndicate will return, and when they do, you must be ready." Alex stared at the crystal, his resolve hardening. He didn't fully understand what was happening, but he knew one thing. Running wasn't an option anymore. If he was going to survive, if they were going to survive, he had to step up. "All right," he said, meeting Lyrith's gaze. "Let's do this." A faint smile crossed Lyrith's face. "Good. The stars chose well." As the night stretched on, Alex felt a shift within himself. The fear and doubt were still there, but now they were tempered by something new: determination. For the first time, he began to see himself not as a victim of circumstance, but as someone capable of changing his fate. Little did he know, the bond he had forged with Lyrith would soon be tested in ways neither of them could have imagined. Final stand. The calm of the glowing forest didn't last long. Alex and Lyrith had barely begun their preparations when the air around them grew heavy, crackling with an ominous energy. The once serene hum of the bioluminescent plants turned discordant, as if the very planet was warning them of what was coming. Lyrith's posture stiffened, her hand instinctively gripping her weapon. "They found us." "How?" Alex asked, panic rising in his voice. "I thought the tracker was disabled." Lyrith's violet eyes narrowed as she scanned the surroundings. "It's not just the tracker. The Syndicate has deployed their advanced hunters. They don't rely on machines. They use instinct, enhanced senses, and other means." "Other means?" Alex echoed, his voice shaky. "What does that even mean?" A deafening roar answered his question. From the shadows emerged a group of Syndicate hunters, their figures imposing and alien. They were clad in dark, chitinous armor that seemed to shift with the light, blending into the forest like living shadows. Their glowing weapons hummed with dangerous energy, and their eyes glinted with predatory intent. "They're not here to capture me anymore," Lyrith said grimly. "They're here to kill." Alex's stomach dropped. "Kill? That wasn't the deal, was it?" "The Syndicate adapts," Lyrith replied, stepping in front of him. "But so do we." The hunters moved with inhuman speed, fanning out to encircle them. Lyrith activated her blade, its violet energy flaring to life, casting eerie shadows on the glowing terrain. She glanced back at Alex, her voice firm. "Stay close to me. No matter what happens, do not run. Do you understand?" Alex nodded, gripping the Solari crystal. Another hunter charged from Alex's side. Panic surged through him, but before he could react, the crystal in his hand pulsed, sending a wave of energy through his body. His reflexes sharpened, and he ducked just in time to avoid the hunter's strike. He stumbled backward, narrowly avoiding another blow. "Focus, Alex," Lyrith shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "The crystal will guide you, but you must trust it." Alex gritted his teeth, holding the crystal tightly. As another hunter closed in, he felt an almost instinctual pull. Moving on pure adrenaline, he dodged the attack and swung a nearby branch at the creature's exposed side. The impact wasn't much, but it bought him enough time to retreat closer to Lyrith. She was a whirlwind of energy and precision, cutting through the hunters with an almost ethereal grace. But even Lyrith wasn't invincible. One of the hunters managed to land a glancing blow, sending her stumbling back. Blood, golden and shimmering, dripped from a gash on her arm. "Lyrith," Alex called out, fear tightening his chest. "I'm fine," she said through gritted teeth, her blade slicing through another attacker. "Just keep moving." The hunters weren't letting up. For every one they brought down, 2 more seemed to appear. The syndicate had sent their best, and it was becoming painfully clear that survival wasn't guaranteed. Amid the chaos, Alex's mind raced. He couldn't keep relying on Lyrith to protect him. If they were going to make it out alive, he had to do something, anything, to shift the odds in their favor. The crystal pulsed again, this time more intensely. Alex felt a surge of energy coursing through him, and an idea formed in his mind. "Lyrith," he shouted, "what happens if I amplify this thing?" Her eyes darted to him, widening slightly. "Amplify? You could overload it. It's too dangerous. More dangerous than this." Alex gestured to the hunters closing in on them. "Trust me on this one." Lyrith hesitated for only a second before nodding. "Do it, but be ready for the fallout." Alex focused on the crystal, willing its energy to expand. It responded almost immediately, glowing brighter and hotter in his hand. The warmth turned into a searing heat, but he didn't let go. Instead, he directed the energy outward, imagining it forming a protective barrier around them. The crystal flared, and a wave of radiant light erupted from it, forcing the hunters back. The ground trembled as the energy expanded, disrupting the syndicate's weapons and throwing their attackers into disarray. The hunters recoiled, their armor cracking under the force of the blast. Some fell to the ground, incapacitated, while others were new beginnings. The syndicate's command hub loomed above the desolate landscape like a menacing fortress of steel and energy. Its spires pierced the sky, glowing with a pulsing red light that seemed to warn anyone foolish enough to approach. Alex and Lyrith crouched behind a ridge, surveying the structure. This was it, the heart of the syndicate's operations in the sector. Alex adjusted the makeshift gear strapped to his chest, his nerves fraying at the edges. "I still don't know how we're supposed to take that thing down. It looks like a death trap." Lyrith, her golden skin dimmed to avoid detection, glanced at him with a calm intensity. "It is a death trap, but that is why we must be precise." "Precise?" Alex scoffed. "You mean suicidal." Lyrith's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "If we succeed, it won't matter." "That's comforting," Alex muttered, shaking his head. "All right, so what's the plan?" She turned her gaze back to the fortress. "The command hub's core is powered by an energy crystal similar to the one you used in the forest. If we can overload it, the resulting chain reaction will destroy the entire structure." Alex frowned. "Let me guess. The core is heavily guarded." "Of course," Lyrith said, as if it were obvious. "But that is where you come in." "Me?" Alex's voice cracked. "What am I supposed to do? I don't have a magic sword or superpowers, remember." "You have ingenuity," Lyrith said firmly. "And you are more connected to the crystal's energy than you realize. While I create a distraction, you will infiltrate the core and use this to overload it." She handed him a small cylindrical device, its surface etched with glowing Solari symbols. Alex turned it over in his hands, his stomach churning. "And if I screw this up, then we both die," Lyrith said matter-of-factly. "But I trust you." Alex stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in. For all his doubts and fears, she truly believed in him. He clenched the device tightly, a flicker of determination sparking within him. "All right, let's do this." The plan unfolded with a terrifying precision. Lyrith stormed the main entrance, her blade blazing with violet energy as she engaged the syndicate forces head-on. Alarms blared, and the red lights of the command hub turned a blinding white, signaling an intruder alert. Alex used the chaos to slip through a side entrance, his heart pounding with every step. The corridors were cold and metallic, the air humming with an oppressive energy. He clung to the shadows, avoiding patrols and automated drones as he made his way toward the core. The crystal in his hand pulsed faintly, guiding him like a beacon. Despite his fear, he couldn't help but marvel at its power. It felt alive, like it was responding to his very thoughts. Finally, he reached the core chamber. The room was massive, dominated by a towering energy crystal that pulsed with an ominous red light. Dozens of Syndicate soldiers surrounded it, their weapons trained on every possible entry point. "Great," Alex muttered under his breath. "This'll be easy." He spotted a maintenance hatch along the far wall and crawled through it, keeping as quiet as possible. The crystal's energy thrummed louder as he approached, vibrating through his very bones. He reached the base of the core and pulled out the overload device. "All right, Alex," he whispered to himself. "No pressure. Just save the galaxy and don't die." He placed the device against the crystal's surface. It latched on with a metallic click, its lights glowing brighter as it synchronized with the core. Alex's hands shook as he entered the activation sequence, his mind racing. Suddenly, the crystal flared, and a deafening alarm echoed through the chamber. The soldiers turned toward the core, their weapons raised. "Oh," Alex muttered, ducking behind a console as energy blasts rained down around him. Meanwhile, Lyrith was fighting her own battle. The Syndicate forces swarmed her, their weapons blazing, but she moved with an unyielding determination. Every strike of her blade was calculated, every movement a testament to her training and resolve. But even she couldn't hold them off forever. Through her communicator, she heard Alex's panicked voice. "Lyrith, we've got a problem. They found me." She gritted her teeth, dispatching another soldier with a swift kick. "Stay calm. Is the device active?" "Yes, but I'm pinned down," Alex shouted. "I don't think I can finish this." "You can," Lyrith said firmly, her voice cutting through the chaos. "You must." Back in the core chamber, Alex took a deep breath, his mind racing. He glanced at the device, its lights flashing in a sequence he didn't fully understand. The crystal in his hand pulsed again, stronger this time, as if urging him forward. He stepped out from his cover, clutching the crystal tightly. The soldiers fired, but their shots seemed to slow as the crystal's energy enveloped him. He reached the device and slammed his hand onto the activation panel, pouring the crystal's energy into it. The room erupted in light. The core vibrated violently, cracks spidering across its surface as the overload began. Alex stumbled back, shielding his eyes from the blinding glow. The soldiers retreated, their panic evident as the core's destruction became imminent. Alex activated his communicator. "Lyrith, it's done. The core's overloading. Get out of there." "I'm on my way," she replied, her voice strained. The explosion was a spectacle of light and sound. The command hub spires collapsed in on themselves as the core detonated, sending a shockwave across the landscape. Alex and Lyrith barely made it out, tumbling into the dirt as debris rained down around them. For a moment, everything was still. The fortress was gone, reduced to a smoldering ruin. The Syndicate's presence in the sector had been obliterated. Alex sat up, coughing from the dust. Did we do it?" Lyrith stood, her golden skin streaked with dirt and blood, but her expression was triumphant. "Yes, it is over." Alex laughed, the sound bordering on hysterical. "I can't believe we survived." "You did more than survive," Lyrith said, offering him a hand. "You changed everything." Alex took her hand, pulling himself to his feet. As they stood together, the stars above seemed brighter, freer. The Syndicate was defeated, but their journey wasn't over. "What now?" Alex asked, his voice quiet. Lyrith looked at him, her violet eyes filled with a quiet determination. "Now we build something new, together." For the first time, Alex felt a spark of hope. The galaxy was vast and uncertain, but with Lyrith by his side, he knew they could face whatever came next. And so, under the watchful light of distant stars, their new beginning unfolded.